Atomic Blonde is an action film that comes out in a few weeks. I think July 28th it is, and it stars Charlize Theron, and it stars James McAvoy, and it stars John Goodman and Sophia Boutella and a bunch of other people. Basically, it's a spy movie. It takes place at the end or after the Cold War. It takes place in the late 80s. That's all they really say about it. It takes place in 1989, and it stars Charlize Theron as this super spy MI6 agent named Lorraine. And Lorraine gets called into some situation because there is this dangerous list that's out on the open market. It's a list that holds the identities of all the spies that were active during the Cold War. And so she has to team up with James McAvoy's character to try to recover this list, and along the way they both discover that spies, as usual, cannot be trusted. And now, after having seen the movie, I can definitively say that if you ever had any doubts about Charlize Theron and her ability to kick ass in a major film after Furiosa and Mad Max Fury Road, this movie should put an end to all of that shit. I gotta say, guys, this movie was pretty freaking badass. Charlize Theron, or Theron, or however you like to say it, she was really awesome in this movie. Yes, she kicked a lot of ass. You would assume that she kicks a lot of ass. I feel like I really liked her character too. Her character is kind of cold and calculated, and she's very smart and obviously very resourceful, but there's also a sense of humanity to her. You get the sense that she cares a lot more than she shows in the movie. She also shows some versatility in this movie, man. There's a lot of situations that her character is put in where she has to act like a different person depending on the situation, which, if you're a spy, that's what you're supposed to be able to do. And she's able to pull that off really well. You feel like Charlize Theron is playing different people at different points in this movie. So points to her for being badass. And saying John Goodman is good and making a corny play on the last name, it's a cliche at this point. John Goodman was good. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Sophia Boutella is an actress that's kind of been impressing me a little bit with everything she's been in. She was in The Mummy. She's in this movie. She plays this other French spy. There is a scene between her and Charlize Theron that is just...
Yes! Yeah! Woo! Damn!
McAvoy, I feel like, gave an underrated performance in this movie, but he was a live wire in this movie, man. He was entertaining as hell. He was charismatic. He plays somebody that is really ambiguous. You can't really tell what side of the fence that he's on. He just brings a lot of energy, a lot of wit. He has a lot of the funniest lines in the film. The action in this movie is absolutely glorious. I mean, holy shit. The action in this movie, it's some of the best action scenes and fight scenes that you've probably seen all year long. In terms of how they're filmed, in terms of the choreography, the stunt work, everything is just seamless. In fact, there is this really long take. I'm pretty sure it was one take. I can't really tell if it was one take or not. I mean, maybe they edited it to make it look like it was one take, but it looks like there's this one long, single shot, free-flowing take that takes place in a stairwell. And I'm pretty sure it's like the best action scene that I've seen in any movie this year. In fact, beyond that, I feel like this is one of the best action scenes that I've ever seen. Like, period. No matter what year it is. It's got a great soundtrack, too. I love the soundtrack for this movie. The soundtrack will be playing in different scenes, and then you'll just be sitting there bobbing your head and knocking your feet to it because you just can't help it, because that's how good the soundtrack is. Good soundtrack, good action, Charlize Theron and Sophia Boutella. I mean, what's not to like? Probably would have been like a great movie for me if the first 40 minutes or so had been handled a little bit better. Because of the structure of this movie and the way they decide to do the storytelling, they decide to do it in like a debrief way, so where she's talking to her superiors about something that happened and we get to see that something that happened. It creates a very jarring and poorly edited first 40 minutes or so. It feels like the first act of the film. I'm calling it the first act because it feels like it's this really long, extended thing. They keep jumping back and forth between the debrief station where she's talking to these old dudes, and then they keep jumping to the story that we actually want to see. And because they keep cutting so fast between them, and because they keep mixing in some other Cold War stuff every now and then on the TV, you'll hear somebody just, here's the Cold War and information that you need to know. Okay, back to your regularly scheduled programming. And those first 40 minutes were kind of rough to get through. It also felt like the story itself was kind of walking in quicksand. There's a lot of expositional dialogue. I get it, expositional dialogue is a thing in pretty much every movie, but in this movie I feel like they took it a little bit too far in those first 40 minutes. So in this first long extended act, you feel like hardly anything is happening, and you feel like there's no momentum here with the story. As a result, I didn't really start to enjoy this movie until the second act kicked in. Guys, this movie was badass. This movie was awesome. This movie had great action. Charlize Theron is like a definitely certifiable female action star at this point. I will say that this is gonna fall somewhere in the Man of Steel category. It's not great, but it's pretty good, and it's a pretty enjoyable watch, I would say. Guys, those are my thoughts on Charlize Theron and Atomic Blonde. Look for that. I'm pretty sure it comes out on July 28th in a few weeks, so make sure you stay tuned for that. What is your favorite female action star movie ever? Go ahead and list those in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.